Welcome to PopCultX, your Gen X YouTube show podcast where you guys like to go to hear us, Daniel and Gabe, talk about all things pop culture. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone out there for subscribing our YouTube channel. Past a small little milestone, we finally hit the 100 subscribers mark. This past week, I think we're up to 103 now, but it's kind of exciting, to start from nothing and start building it up. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed, who's liked, who's commented, who's watched, who's shared. We do appreciate that. So thanks for tuning in, and we're happy that you keep coming back because we're here to talk stuff so that way you guys can get a good laugh and maybe learn something along the way. Who knows? But like I said, I'm Daniel, and Gabe is here also, and we're here to chat about whatever it is we want to talk about this week. So Gabe, please inform our audience, what's on your mind? What is your 2 cents?
Yeah, well, since our podcast pretty much discuss everything and everyone and everywhere all at once, my first topic that I want to discuss is that I finally got to see Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a new film with Michelle Yeoh and Stephanie, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Hisu, and
Stephanie Sue,
Jamie Lee Curtis, and James Hong, who's like a very famous Asian actor that's been in like a ton of stuff. You see him and you instantly recognize him. This is a kind of movie that I think that it's great to walk into not knowing what it's about and having very little expectations and not having any spoilers. So I'm not going to go into depth into it, but know that Michelle Yeoh has an incredible performance. She's a star. I mean, she's always been, someone that I really like watching in films. She's a great actress, a great physical action star, very beautiful when it comes to the choreography that she does with the martial arts. And so I've always liked her. This is no different. It's a really stunning movie. I definitely recommend it to everyone that wants to go see it. It's probably a movie that I'll see twice maybe in the theaters to kind of pick up some other stuff that maybe I didn't see the first time around. But it's really good. I definitely recommend it. And want everyone to see it who can.
Yeah, I think Stephanie Sue, she's also in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and she's a great actress as well. And I think the directors, they call themselves the Daniels because both of their names are, luckily enough, Daniel. But I think they're this is like one of their first feature films. I think they made a lot of their notoriety with short films and music videos. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I believe so. Now you have me questioning that. No, I think they did make a lot of music videos, and this is like one of their first feature films. But so I think they're more of like a self-taught type of thing. Type of style, which is cool because that's how I am. I'm self-taught and everything. But yeah, it's really exciting movie. I'm looking forward. I remember when I saw the previews for it, when trailers first dropped for that, and I was like, wow, this looks absolutely incredible. And sure enough, it is. And I can't wait to see it. Unfortunately, haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I will. And as soon as I do, I'm sure I will be raving about it everywhere. So
yeah, it's interesting that you said that Stephanie is from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because I did not recognize her at all.
Oh, no. Interesting. Okay.
She is playing a character that I think maybe is much younger than the character in Mrs. Maisel, or maybe just the fact that, today people look younger maybe than people back in people carry themselves in a different way. And she has some very cool she's like, I don't want to ruin anything, but she's very cool in the movie. And I didn't recognize her at all, but that's cool that you said that because I didn't recognize her. Jamie Lee Curtis, again, was really good in it. She's semi-unrecognizable in it, but she is really great in it. One of the things that recently kind of was a little bit of a controversy is that she tweeted about the movie in regards to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, saying, Doctor Strange is, I'm totally putting in my own words, but is a bunch of crap. Go see this movie. It actually has merit and has, some gravitas to it, like versus just another Marvel. I liked both of the movies. I wouldn't really say that I rank either one of them above. I
Okay.
can enjoy films that are different for
Mhm.
more than one reason. But I kind of like that about Jamie Lee Curtis, that she kind of isn't afraid to just kind
No.
of speak her mind, and I mean doesn't give a fuck. She's child of Hollywood royalty. She's pretty much Hollywood royalty now.
Yeah.
And she's an icon of Hollywood. So why not
She can
stick
say
up
whatever
for
she
your
wants.
role?
Yeah.
Be competitive. Yeah, like I like that. I like when people are competitive when it comes to their films, and they want it to succeed versus the actors that say, oh, like I never even watched my performance. I never even saw it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's an actor that is in pop, in mainstream, being discussed a lot this couple days or months, and he claims to never watch his performances, and I think it comes off as very pretentious for some reason to me. Like it's like I just give so much to my performance, and then I just move on from it. And it's like, how can you not watch it? Like, that's probably what I can imagine part of the fun about being an actor.
That would, yeah, I
is that
agree.
you get to see the end result.
Mhm.
Imagine making a film like The Avengers, where there is so much, CGI, green screen.
Mhm.
You would come away from it like not even knowing what the end result is, and they don't get the script oftentimes, so they don't know how other characters are interrelated.
They don't know what else is going on, right?
Yeah, and then so imagine just walking away and being like, "Oh, I don't give a fuck. Like it could be whatever." Like I would be dying to watch the movie, not only for my own self to see how you perform and try to make yourself better, but then just to see the film and enjoy it as an audience member.
Well, yeah, as
so
a
I
fan
always
of
call
cinema,
bullshit.
yeah. Maybe that's
Yeah.
why a lot of his characters now are interchangeable, because he doesn't learn. Maybe because I could take
One note.
exactly one note. You could take one from one film, put him into the other film, and would it miss a beat? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But we won't say his name,
So,
and we'll just let him get litigious with us because we inferred it.
Yeah, he's had enough press lately. So from now on, he will be what's from Harry Potter.
He who should not be named.
Yeah. So what have you watched? What have you been?
I took a little trip down nostalgia lane this past week when I watched a couple different things. So on Disney Plus, they released a Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie. So I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it. We were not babysitting, but kid sitting our nieces. So there's a 10-year-old and two 13-year-olds, so whatever you want to call it. But we put the movie on. Hanging out with them. There you go. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of cameos in there, a lot of pop culture references that our generation will totally get because we grew up with all of it. So it had, I think I saw a tweet or some article that said there was like over 300 different pop culture references in that movie.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow. A, amazed that they fit that much in. B, amazed that someone had the time to go watch and notate all of them and count them. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it had Andy Samberg as the voice of Chip, I think, or one of the two chipmunks, and John Mulaney as the voice of the other. And it had a lot of voice actors that you would recognize just by their voice alone. And it was thoroughly fun, especially for someone like us who grew up in that era with when we saw those come about the first time around, just to see them, get not recycled, but to get reused and repurposed and into a different light. So that way the next generation can see them and say, hey, well, what are those? And maybe they can go start investigating Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or who was any of the other references that they give there. There's so many, I don't want to get into them because I don't remember them. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. It was really fun.
Yeah. I like watching, kind of, how would I say this? Almost as therapy, just watching a movie that is just fun, that you don't have to think about it. It's
exactly.
Not, you're not going to have an existential crisis after watching it. It's not a documentary. It's not something that's going to induce anxiety in you. It's just like a fun Disney movie. And so I definitely will probably be checking it out this week.
Yeah. And sticking with Disney and Disney Plus, they released the newest addition to the Star Wars universe, which I'm a fan of. And it's the series Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Obi-Wan, with starring, of course, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it takes place after the first prequel trilogy, so Revenge of the Sith. After that, the third movie is where this time slot is set in, and it takes the tale of he's now a hermit in the desert looking after a young Skywalker boy. So it's interesting so far. I've watched the first 2 episodes because that's all that's been released so far, but it's pretty good. I mean, they had a young girl and they're playing the young Princess Leia. So Princess Leia, made famous by Carrie Fisher, who's Carrie Fisher played that role perfectly as a general, someone who was to be taken seriously. She was an icon, I guess, for lack of better terms. But the young girl they had playing the young little Leia, I guess I'll call her, because she was like supposed to be 10 years old. She's a little firecracker. She cracked me up. She was great. I know the toxic fandom of Star Wars and not seeing their white male protagonist always ruins things for people, and they're giving a lot of crap already to her, but I thought she was great. I thought there's
so just because she's a young girl, it's or because it takes too much time in the plot, or what?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it is part of the plot, because the plot is
I know,
Obi-Wan has to rescue her. The beef is that I think they didn't like that she was so young, so it just goes to say, okay, did you like Princess Leia because of her character, or because you were just attracted to Carrie Fisher? Right. Yeah. So it's like, it just frustrates me. I didn't really look into it that much because I just got annoyed by it. So I just tuned it off and got away from that, down that rabbit hole, because I didn't want to go down it too far. But I thought she was great. The young character. I mean, even at the most recent movies, like there's a character named Rose and of course Finn. They're 2 people of color characters. And they've got a lot of slack from the fandom because they don't fit the mold that they want. And it's just so annoying and so frustrating because those characters are great. And I really enjoy them and the way they interact in their roles in the movies. So especially with this newest series and this young girl, it's like, you know what? Don't break her. She's a child, damn it. She's an actor child playing a character. You don't like it, take it elsewhere. Who cares what you think? Just enjoy the series. It's just but it's a good series. I enjoy it. Kumali Nanjiani plays a Jedi, so you know him from Eternals and from other movies and Stuber and stuff. He's fun. I always like seeing him in movies, so when I saw him there, and the surprise for it, I'm not sure if you're ever going to watch it or not, but the surprise person that came out when I was watching it, I think it was in the second episode, was Flea plays a character. Flea, the drummer or bassist from Red Hot Chili Peppers. He makes an appearance. I was like, wow, I know who that guy is. He looks so familiar. Then sure enough, it was Flea. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's cool. I kind of like when musicians act, like, because it's so, I was just watching Silence of the Lambs, and Chris Isaac plays, I think, a police officer or guard or something in it. And I always think it's cool because, I don't know, you just see them in a different light, and just to see someone talented in a different way is kind of cool. Just so, there's a lot of musicians that are great actors. But another thing that I kind of got into this weekend is our niece came and visited us from LA. She's a really big Harry Styles fan. Okay. Like, huge Harry Styles fan. She went to this like Los Angeles pop-up where, I don't, to be honest, I don't even know what they were doing outside of selling merch, but it was like a marketing thing. Yeah. And so we were, so Harry Styles was on heavy rotation, of course, because we were driving around with her and want to, keep her happy with this kind of music that she listens to, not our oldies from the 90s or 2000s. And I was actually surprised. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan now, but I do respect maybe a bit more of him as an artist. Listening to the music. It's good songs. It's good songwriting. It's, he has a decent voice. He kind of reminds me of like a Mick Jagger, like a young Mick Jagger. So I don't know. I was kind of, impressed or maybe surprised a little bit that it wasn't just simply music for young girls to listen to. It actually has, but it's actually pretty good. Like, I mean, I would maybe liken it to when I Taylor Swift first came out, and I'm like, okay, well, little girls need music to listen to. But then as she grew as an artist, it was like, oh, she's actually like just a really good artist, like regardless of age or gender or whatever. Her songs do resonate with like a lot of different people because she's a talented musician. And so I kind of saw that about him. So I would, I don't know if you're going to run to go listen to it, but there are some cool songs off his new album that are entertaining to listen to.
Yeah, I can hear what you're saying, because I thought the same way for the Jonas Brothers. Don't laugh.
Yeah.
When they're not my target audience, right? But then I heard their song "Only Human." And I was like, hey, this is kind of catchy. And so I find myself listening to it without any worry about how it's going to make me look. It's a really good song. So I guess when good music is out there, no matter who's delivering it, it's still good music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anything else that you watch?
Speaking of good music, and I thought this was interesting. So I started watching Stranger Things Season 4. Just got released on Netflix this past Friday, same day as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I've been, going back and forth. But I know you haven't seen any of the previous seasons, which tisk. Maybe we can. We'll have you binge watch them all, and we'll just do like a whole Stranger Things episode. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. For around Halloween.
Is this the last season?
I think there's going to be one more after this, but this season itself, I think you'll really like, even if you don't go back and watch the previous ones, because it has, to me at least, a more of a horror movie style to it. So it's geared more towards that horror demonic stuff that maybe wasn't as prevalent or didn't have the undertones to it in the previous seasons. But now that the boys and the kids are older, and it's weird seeing them grow up. It's like when the first season they were like here, and now they're like up here. It's like, whoa! That's strange into itself. Seeing getting able to watch these kids grow up. But maybe now that they're getting older, the directors and the writers feel more comfortable putting them in situations that's more horror related. So I thought that was pretty cool. The music in there is fantastic. So of course it's set in like 1986. So we're getting all 80s music all throughout. And I think there's a song in one of the episodes that I haven't gotten to yet. It's by a lady named Kate Bush called "Running Up That Hill." And
I love that song.
You know that song? Yeah, it sounded familiar, so I played it. But I guess I saw that it's number one on iTunes because of the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, a 35-year-old, 37-year-old song is now number one because of the power of a TV show. And, people like it and it recycles, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is probably my favorite Kate Bush song.
Okay.
Initially when I first heard Kate Bush like many, many years ago, like I wouldn't say that I was immediately attracted to her voice. Her singing style is very, especially. So the first song that I heard was "Wuthering Heights" by her, and it's like that fine line of like, do I hate it or love it? And there's a lot of artists that are like that for me. Like when I first heard not Everclear. Oh God, what's Everlast? I think is the band. Is that the the grunge?
Everclear is right with the older guy, like Santa Monica, and that's Everclear. Everclear, yeah.
Okay, so Everclear. When I first heard that band and his voice, I hated it. And then the second time I heard it, I was like, oh, I love them. Macy Gray was like that for me. The first time I heard her, I was like, what the hell? And then like the second time I heard, I was like, I love it. Same thing with Kate Bush. The first time I heard "Wuthering Heights," I was like, is this for real? It was very not my gig, I guess. It was not my thing. But then like the second or third time I heard, I loved that song. I love "Wuthering Heights," the song. And then, fast forward to her other song, and that's probably one of my favorite songs from that time period, if not just in general, period. That song gets used in a lot of like period pieces, like movies based in the 80s. And it immediately, I think it just has that sound of it immediately takes you back to that time period.
Yeah.
But also it does sound like a song that's current. Like you could listen to it now and it doesn't sound like, flock of seagulls, or something that
No,
is just
absolutely.
like ridiculous. It sounds current, but at the same time, it has that nostalgia feel to it.
I mean, when I first heard it, my first thought was, is this Florence in the Machine? Because that's exactly where my mind went, and her voice, it sounded just like that to me. So I went back and was looking through Florence and the Machine discography. I was like, is it that song? No. And then, okay, I'll look it up. And that's who it was, Kate Bush. So, it's a really cool song. I really enjoy it. And I don't recall hearing it, I guess, in full, but I knew the chorus to it because it just flooded back to me. I was like, I know this song. How do I know this song? So I'm sure I've heard it before plenty of times.
Yeah. It's one of those songs that is really of that time period, but it's just she's a genius artist. I think she's got a very unique sound. She was like a dancer, I believe. When I think she released her first song when she was like 16 or 17. And it was like a top song, and it was about Wuthering Heights. So it's like kind of like a weird
book.
Like, how did she make it? Like, how do you write a song about a piece of like literature and then make it a pop song and then make it like, it's really a weird kind of lightning strikes kind of a situation. But she was like very young, very beautiful. So like obviously that I think helped people bring it to the audience to her, but she didn't dumb her music down. Like it's very cool. Okay. So anyway, I'm a really big fan of Kate Bush. Like you should definitely check out her other work.
I will.
Check out Wuthering Heights because I think the first time you hear it, it'll make you kind of giggle. Like, first of all, have you read Wuthering Heights?
I've read like maybe 50%, half of it, and then fell asleep reading it. So I was like, okay.
It's actually one of my favorite books. I really like the book. You probably would like it because if you went to reread it now as an adult, it very much is like that anti-hero that like you kind of like in comics and movies, where you like the underdog, the guy that you're supposed to hate is really who you're rooting for, and it's not a happy it's not a happy ending book or a plot. But anyway, that's what she's singing about, and she's singing from the point of view of one of the characters in that book. And so it's a really interesting song, like
cool,
kind of
actually
going about the history, and
that's
she
really
was
cool.
young when she wrote it and all of that. It's just really cool. But yeah, that's one of my artists that I think is like one of my, I'm a closet goth fan, like, that there's music that like I don't necessarily promote out there that like I'm a huge I don't know, Bauhaus fan or whatever, or maybe when you see me, you wouldn't necessarily think that. But Kate Bush is like probably in my top 20 of like artists that I love to listen to.
Really cool. So now you got to watch Stranger Things just because they used it.
I see the thing. I don't know why I couldn't get into it. I love Winona Ryder. She's like icon of our generation. Like Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Mermaids. There's so many movies that I love her in. I just think she is like one of the most beautiful actresses to like ever come out. She just has like a mystery and an allure about her that's like very pleasing. But for some reason I don't know if it's because it's from like young kids or I don't know. I saw one episode and I was just like, I couldn't get into it, but I'll probably wait till it's done and then like just breeze through it all.
Sounds good. I think they've released 7 episodes so far of season 4. I think volume 1, which is interesting because they split it between volume 1 and 2, and first volume I guess is 7 episodes. I'm not sure how many episodes the second volume is going to be. So instead of Netflix has their binge release method, right? So they release everything all at once, and then people watch it in one day, which is good for them. I'm glad they have time to do that, but then they go and they ruin it for everyone else. So, which is why I prefer the week-to-week release, like a regular TV show, because then people are all on board on the same page. They can't get ahead, and there's a build-up for anticipation for the next week's release. So this mixed mode that they're doing with Stranger Things, I'm kind of curious to see how that will go over, because people can go watch the first volume of it and talk about it all they want, but they don't know how it ends until the second one gets released, which gives me time to go watch the first volume and not all in one day, but over a couple of weeks so I can watch it all. So interesting how they're going to do that.
I kind of like the format of like 2 episodes a week, where it's like, okay, one is like, oh, I want to see more. And then a second one, you're like, okay, like I got some good plot.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait for next week. Versus all at once is sometimes it's a bit much. And then you're having to wait like a year, 2 years, 3 years for that next season to come. So, but whatever.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and being a comic book guy as you are, maybe you can help shed some light on this for me. So a lot of people were talking about in the Star Wars Kenobi series how some of the things that they were talking about discussing wasn't canon to Star Wars. Now, we all know what the canon means. Basically, it's what people have perceived as the one true storyline, right? How important do you think that is to you for a series or spin-off series of in any sort of universe to be tied canonically to the main storyline? Is it, for me, I don't really care that much. A good story is a good story. And if it tells a story that doesn't, okay, I'll just take it as a one-off. I'll enjoy it as that. Like, say, for example, the movie The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, right? Well, a lot of DCs are one-offs, but anyways, is that important to you?
So I would say it used to be, but now that I've gotten older, it's less so, because I kind of look at those films, comic book movies or graphic novel movies or whatnot, almost as like songs. Like, you could have a favorite song, like from like the American Songbook, that one artist sang, and then someone does another rendition of it, and you like both.
Yeah.
And they both have their own value.
Yeah.
So it's like when someone remakes a song, you're not like, oh, you have to sing it that way. Okay, no, it's cool to hear a different rendition and different version. It's hard, I think, for younger people to see things from that perspective, because they're not necessarily used to like crooners or singers in the way that maybe, I mean, our generation is probably at that like very end, but Gaga is someone who's like that, who can take a song that is very well known, that has been sung by a lot of different artists, and kind of make it her own. I don't want her to sing it exactly the same way that Barbara Streisand sang it, for example, or Julie Andrews.
I think that's a good point right there, because I guess back in the heyday of whatever you want to call that, a lot of the song writers didn't perform their own songs, right? So they wrote the songs. I think for like Fly Me to the Moon is a good example for like Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, both iconic versions of it. But yeah, I absolutely think that's a good example of what you're saying there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess you could argue the lyric is important because that's instrumental to the song, but you can kind of play with everything else. The reason why I've really moved away from like being like, it has to be the comic book, is that both Marvel and DC have made a very good effort of trying to diversify their comic book characters and have them be representative of the whole world versus, a small microcosm of the population. And so when people use canon as, for example, the new Black Panther, Namor is going to be of Aztec or Mexican descent, and they're like, that's impossible. They can't. He's Atlantean, and it's like, who gives a fuck? It's going to be cool. They're not going to make something stupid because Marvel has its money. They're going to want to make it cool because they want people to go see it. I know a lot of fanboys actually think the opposite. They think that for some reason Marvel wants to destroy their characters, but it's racist and it's juvenile and it's just stupid. Aquaman is a good example. Aquaman was not a Hawaiian in the comic books. He's a blonde-haired, green-eyed, I don't know, green or blue-eyed, whatever. I don't care about his eye color, but like clearly a white man. Jason Momoa killed that character. Like, he's way cooler than Aquaman ever was. I'm sorry, but Aquaman was never cool. I don't care if you're they're his biggest fan. Aquaman was like the nerdiest, dumbest character that I would never, say was my top character. Jason Momoa made him cool. What's another good example of, the Eternals being able to switch their gender and their ethnicities and their race was really cool.
Yeah.
mainstream people were not reading the Eternals. I'm sorry.
No.
It was like not it like hardcore fans, yes, but not everyday, run of the mill comic book fans were not reading the Eternals. And so just relax, just get off of Twitter, get off of Reddit or whatever you're on. Wait to see the film, and if you don't like it, then fine, you don't like it.
Exactly.
But then go watch a movie that you like. Like, it's not the responsibility of the world to just please one person. I know that there are movies that are made that are not necessarily made to entertain me. But if the reason is because it's a story that, doesn't appeal to me is one thing, but if it's because they're going out of the way to just make like white films, then that's something else.
Yeah.
And they need to not do that anymore. So I definitely am not a stickler for like, Professor X has to do this and sound this way or do that. They can make whatever they want. And as long as it's entertaining to me and it's cool, comics reinvent themselves all the time.
Very true. Very true. I mean,
they reinvent their origin. They reinvent the character. There's multiverses. There's resurrections. There's, forget about it, that it ever happened. So how can you stick to something that they could change at any moment? And that's historically has been done forever. It's not a new thing that they're like, Superman dies this issue. Does he really? No. But they've been doing that forever. And so you can't really hold on to those things. It's not healthy for you. Let go, nerds, and
just enjoy the content. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Read your favorite comic book, read your favorite run. If that is really your favorite character, there you have it. If your Aquaman was your favorite character, you have many issues of Aquaman that you can go and revisit. If Jason Momoa doesn't get you off, that's fine. Go back to the comics and you can see, green pants, orange top Aquaman with his luscious blonde hair, and go enjoy.
When you say that, I always think of the Family Guy when they did a parody of that, and like you see they're on the beach and you see Aquaman off in the distance, and some lady's getting assaulted on the beach, and she's like, "Aquaman, help me!" And she's like, "I'll throw a fish" or something like that because he can't come out of the water or something.
It's a dumb, I don't know. He's not my favorite character, but I don't bitch about it because I don't have to like every single character that comes out.
Right.
So anyway, that's how I feel about that.
Okay, good answer. Good answer.
But to segue into something that I think is kind of interesting, I just finished reading this trade paperback of a series called Gun. Fighting is My Monday by Jack Foster. I think I actually mentioned this book when I went to WonderCon a few months ago. I actually met him, had him sign the trade paperback, and I actually finally got the time to sit down and read it. First and foremost, the images that he creates in it are very cool. The plot and the feel of it is almost like something that I imagine like Quentin Tarantino, like a movie like that. Like it's kind of it's gritty. It's an anti-hero, so it's actually a character that is a gun or someone who's actually a villain. So it's like you're rooting for the anti-hero basically, and he gets kind of pulled into this like last heist type of situation, and then it of course leads to misadventure. But it's really cool. It's very progressive. It has a transgender sex worker in it. It has sex workers in it. It has just really cool characters, like really cool original superpowers. And I recommend it. It's really cool. If anyone, I think the name of his company is Reckless Eyeballs Press. You can see it on Instagram. Again, the creator is Jack Foster. The reason why I bring it up and talking about canon is that in the paperback, he talks about how he came up with this idea. And initially he was going to DC and trying to write, give ideas, pitches to try to get a run. And one of the characters, I forget the exact one. I think it's Dr. Vertigo, I think, or Mr. Vertigo, something like that. He pitched that and it got declined. They weren't interested in it. So he thought, well, let me go ahead and take what he was kind of creating as a plot, create new characters that are somewhat influenced by DC characters, and create his own universe, create his own story, and publish it himself. Which we've talked to a lot of people on this podcast. It's thus far people who have kind of just like done their own thing and said, okay, here's one path that you can kind of lead to success or happiness or creating your artwork, and here's this other one, and he's got a book and a series of comics that are entertaining people that was not the route of DC or Marvel, like the top dogs or whatever, but created a really unique original idea and story that I really like. I could easily see it being turned into like a movie or even like a series, an animated series on like Amazon or Netflix, kind of gritty and similar to what's the one on Amazon?
The Boys,
I forget now.
Or Invincible.
Invincible, sort of like that, like a graphic novel cartoon for adults, and maybe speaking that into existence, maybe we'll see that. But it's really cool. It's a really good read. It's not too long. I think the trade paperback is maybe 5 or 6 issues of the comic collected, and then the story goes on from there. And so I'm going to definitely probably pick those up off of his website because I kind of want to see how the characters go from there. But really cool. It was unexpected. I kind of randomly met him and talked to him about his book, picked it up, and really enjoyed it.
That's
really
cool. Those are the best times, I think. Like, I remember way back in like 95, 96, I went to ComicCon, and this was before it was big then, but it isn't the massive thing that it is now. So we were able to secure passes to the day before, like the preview day for like when all the people, I forget the term, but anyways, we got in a day early, and I was walking through and I saw this tall gentleman there, and I go up and we start talking, and he's talking about the fantasy book that he wrote. And at the time I wasn't really much into fantasy books, but he said, as I was walking away, he said, "Here, let me give you one." So he signs it and gives it to me. It's a book called Morning Star by an author named called David Gemmell. And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Appreciate that." And he's like, "Oh, here's another one." So he gave me one more called Legend, which is, I had no idea who these were at the time. And now I could say David Gemmell is by far my absolute favorite author in the fantasy realm. And not just because I met him, but because his stories and his characters that he creates in his worlds are very believable. They're very, they're not perfect. They have all those imperfections in there, and they have, they're believable. And it's just, if you haven't read that David Gemmell book, I don't know if you like fantasy books or not, but I highly recommend it. Highly recommend him, and I'll tell that to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And maybe it was the fact that the author introduced me to his life, to his world, that really made it a boon for me. But it's not what kept me around. It was his work. So.
Yeah, I think it's cool to meet the creators of books or comic books, because oftentimes you get to learn about their process of how they created the characters, which makes it a little bit more interesting. And then also it's nice to know who you're supporting.
Yeah, that's true.
I spend a lot of money on comics, and it's kind of cool to know that, like, oh, I know, well, not that you know them, but like, where your money or who your money is being in support of versus a big conglomerate, like Marvel that's owned by Disney, that's, owns everything. But that you can kind of help support an artist that's doing their own thing is really cool.
Yeah, that's true.
I still go and buy the Marvel books, of course. But it is cool to to purchase and support those independent authors and creators, because they're working really hard to get original content out there. And it's just as entertaining as the big stuff, sometimes even more, because they have a bit more freedom than those other people do.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Well, I think I want to end this episode on a slightly more serious note.
Oh, no.
unfortunately. So, with the tragic events that happened the past couple of weeks in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas, I think it's important for us to lift up nonprofits that are doing good, especially when it comes to gun violence. So I found Everytown.org. So it's the largest gun violence prevention organization in America. So they work with um, local groups in every community to help end gun violence. So I think it's something that if you guys can go research, go to everytown.org, take a look at it. And I know there's some marches coming up for the March of Our Life for Our Lives in June that I'm thinking of going to. I've never been one to actively participate in something like that. It's just, I root from the sidelines, but it's just with the events that have happened. I think it demands us, because if we don't take action, we're failing our children and the children and generations to come. So I think it's just something that we, or at least I feel compelled and motivated to go be a part of. So if you can't do that, at least go take a look at that, everytown.org. Give if you can, and just share the word and help out. That's, just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have participated in a few marches in my day. I think that it is really important for people to show up, being part of, the mass voice, and the part of the consciousness of specifically of gun reform. We need to show, and statistically, 80% of people are actually for common sense gun laws. We have to force it. If we have to force the hands of our politicians to make the change, it's something that we have to do, because we can't have more senseless violence like this in America. It's shameful. It's embarrassing. It's heartbreaking. Other countries don't have this, and we're such a wonderful, country, and that's what the positive side of going and being part of a protest is. Although there is a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness that motivates you to go and try to speak your voice, once you're there and you're with a group of like-minded people that are demanding change, but it kind of helps you feel more positive.
Yeah, like you're not alone. Exactly.
That it isn't, the world is just horrible and evil. There is a big contingent that we have to fight, but when you go out there, you kind of see you do have brothers and sisters, that are there fighting the good fight with you.
Yeah.
So you do leave leaving with feelings of hope. Because it's like, okay, the war is not over yet.
Yeah.
We haven't given up. If we have to keep fighting, we will keep fighting, whether it be for, gun laws, whether it be for women's rights and body autonomy, LGBT, trans rights. There are so many things that in this day and age that we still have to continue to fight for. And it is important to be visible and to show. Of course, not everyone can, because your work may not let you go out. You may have responsibilities, things like that. So then it's important to do it online. A lot of people criticize people that support causes online, but I think it's a great way to spread information and support for people, to encourage people to vote online.
Yeah.
So I don't, I don't gawk at people that are, quote, armchair activists, because sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes, the responsibilities, in this economy, people are working 2 to 3 jobs. So not everyone can take a day off during the week at 12 o'clock to go participate.
Right.
So, but I do think that it is, it does help you feel a little bit more positive, because I know I can feel a little bit, down the dumps and despair, because you just feel that it's like, we've been here before. Nothing changes, nothing happens. We hear the same rhetoric over and over again. But when you go out and you're walking with a group of people that is like, you can feel the passion and the energy and the love and you know you're not alone,
Yeah.
and you know that there are people that are fighting to help protect the people that need protection. So yeah, let's do it. Let's support any nonprofit that we can. Do more research, educate yourself, vote. Very important. So yeah, let's leave on that note, I think, and just it goes without saying that as Americans, we're heartbroken for what occurred in Buffalo and in Uvalde, and even though I don't know anyone, it was as if those were my own nieces and nephews, and uncles and aunts and parents that were impacted. And as Americans, we have to think of it that way. We have to think of it as fellow citizens, as fellow Americans that were murdered, and it has to jolt us. It has to jolt us into action.
Exactly.
It can't just be another day, another shooting, and then move forward and not make anything change. So here's to having that hope, and knowing that in the future, maybe change will finally occur.
Right. Well said.
Yeah, with that, thank you for everyone who comes to our YouTube channel, listens to us on our podcast. And thank you for supporting us, and we definitely appreciate it. And stay safe, and we will see you next week.